is entitled Vayetze, means and he went out. The Torah portion is taken from Genesis chapter 12 verse 10 through chapter 32 verse 2. The Haftarah is Hosea chapter 12 verse 12 through 14 verse 9. The apostolic portion is John 1 verses 41 through 51, and it's dated 7th December 2024. Genesis 28 verse 10. And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he came upon a place and stopped over for the night, for the sun had set. And he took one of the stones of that place and put it at his head, and he lay down in that place to sleep. And he dreamed and saw a ladder set up on the earth, and its top reached to the heavens, and saw messengers of Elohim going up and coming down on it. And see, Jehovah stood above it and said, I am Jehovah Elohim of Abraham your father, and the Elohim of Yitzhak. The land on which you are lying, I give it to you and your seed. And your seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and you shall break forth to the west and to the east, to the north and the south. And all the clans of the earth shall be blessed in you and in your seed. And see, I am with you, and shall guard you wherever you go, and shall bring you back to this land. For I am not going to leave you until I have done what I have spoken to you. And Jacob awoke from his sleep and said, Truly, Jehovah is in this place, and I did not know it. And he was afraid and said, How awesome is this place! This is none other than the house of Elohim, and this is the gate of the heavens. And Jacob rose early in the morning, and took the stone that he had put at his head, set it up as a standing column, and poured oil on top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel. However, the name of that city had been Luz previously. And Jacob made a vow, saying, Seeing Elohim is with me, and has kept me in this way that I am going, and has given me bread to eat and a garment to put on, when I have returned to my father's house in peace, and Jehovah has been my Elohim, then this stone which I have set as a standing column shall be Elohim's house, and all of that you gave me I shall certainly give a tenth to you. Genesis 29. And Jacob moved on and came to the land of the people of the east. And he looked and saw a well in the field, and saw 3 flocks of sheep lying by it. For out of that well they watered the flocks, and a large stone was on the well's mouth. And all the flocks would be gathered there. Then they would roll the stone from the well's mouth, and water the sheep, and put the stone back in its place on the well's mouth. So Jacob said to them, My brothers, where are you from? And they said, We are from Haran. And he said to them, Do you know Laban, son of Nahor? And they said, We know him. So he said to them, Is he well? And they said, Well. And see, his daughter Rahel is coming with the sheep. And he said, See, it is still high day, not the time for the livestock to be gathered together. Water the sheep, and go and feed them. But they said, We are not allowed until all the flocks are gathered together, and they have rolled the stone from the well's mouth. Then we shall water the sheep. While he was still speaking with them, Rahel came with her father's sheep, for she was a shepherdess. And it came to be, when Jacob saw Rahel, the daughter of Laban, his mother's brother, and the sheep of Laban, his mother's brother, that Jacob went near and rolled the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rahel, and lifted up his voice and wept. And when Jacob told Rahel that he was her father's relative, and that he was Rivkah's son, she ran and told her father. And it came to be, when Laban heard the report about Jacob, his sister's son, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him to his house. Then he told Laban all these matters. And Laban said to him, You are indeed my bone and my flesh. And he stayed with him for a month. Then Laban said to Jacob, Because you are my relative, should you therefore serve me for naught? Let me know, what should your wages be? And Laban had 2 daughters. The name of the elder was Leah, and the name of the younger was Rahel. And Leah's eyes were weak, but Rahel was lovely of form and appearance. And Jacob loved Rahel, so he said, Let me serve you for 7 years for Rahel, your younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to you than I should give her to another man. Stay with me. So Jacob served 7 years for Rahel, and they seemed to him but a few days, because of the love he had for her. Then Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wife, for my days are completed, and let me go into her. And Laban gathered all the men of the place, and made a feast. And it came to be in the evening, that he took Leah his daughter, and brought her to Jacob, and he went in to her. And Laban gave his female servant Zilpah to his daughter Leah as a female servant. And in the morning it came to be that, see, it was Leah. So he said to Laban, What is this you have done to me? Was it not for Rahel that I served you? Why then have you deceived me? And Laban said, It is not done this way in our place, to give the younger before the firstborn. Complete the week of this one, then we give you this one too, for the service which you shall serve with me, still another 7 years. And Jacob did so, and completed her week. Then he gave him his daughter Rahel too, as wife. And Laban gave his female servant Bilhah to his daughter Rahel as a female servant. And he also went in to Rahel. And he also loved Rahel more than Leah. And he served with Laban still another 7 years. And Jehovah saw that Leah was unloved, and he opened her womb, but Rahel was barren. And Leah conceived and bore a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, For Jehovah has looked upon my affliction, because now my husband is going to love me. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Because Jehovah has heard that I am unloved, he gave me this son too. And she called his name Shimon. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Now, this time, my husband is joined to me, because I have borne him 3 sons. So his name was called Levi. And she conceived again and bore a son, and said, Now I praise Jehovah. So she called his name Yehudah, and she ceased bearing. Genesis 30. And when Rahel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rahel envied her sister, and said to Jacob, Give me children, or else I am going to die. And Jacob's displeasure burned against Rahel, and he said, Am I in the place of Elohim, who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb? And she said, See, my female servant Bilhah, go in to her, and let her bear for me, and let me be built up from her as well. So she gave him Bilhah, her female servant, as wife, and Jacob went in to her. And Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. And Rahel said, Elohim has rightly ruled my case, and has also heard my voice, and given me a son. So she called his name Dan. And Rahel's female servant Bilhah conceived again, and bore Jacob a second son. And Rahel said, With great wrestlings I have wrestled with my sister, and I have overcome. So she called his name Naphtali. And Leah saw that she had ceased bearing, and she took Zilpah, her female servant, and gave her to Jacob as wife. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Jacob a son. And Leah said, With God. So she called his name Gad. And Leah's female servant Zilpah bore Jacob a second son. And Leah said, I am blessed, for the daughters shall call me blessed. So she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, and found love apples in the field, and brought them to his mother, Leah. And Rahel said to Leah, Please give me some of your son's love apples. But she said to her, Is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Would you take away my son's love apples too? And Rahel said, Therefore let him lie with you tonight for your son's love apples. And when Jacob came out of the field in the evening, Leah went out to meet him and said, Do come in to me, for indeed I have hired you with my son's love apples. And he lay with her that night. And Elohim listened to Leah, and she conceived, and bore Jacob a fifth son. And Leah said, Elohim has given me my hire, because I have given my female servant to my husband. So she called his name Yissaschar. And Leah conceived again, and bore Jacob a sixth son. And Leah said, Elohim has presented me with a good present. Now my husband is going to dwell with me, because I have borne him 6 sons. So she called his name Zebulun. And afterward she bore a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And Elohim remembered Rahel, and Elohim listened to her, and opened her womb. And she conceived, and bore a son, and said, Elohim has taken away my reproach. So she called his name Joseph, and said, Jehovah has added to me another son. And it came to be, when Rahel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, Send me on my way to go to my own place, and on to my land. Give my wives and my children, for whom I have served you, and let me go, for you yourself know my service which I have done for you. And Laban said to him, If I have found favor in your eyes, please stay, for I have diligently watched that Jehovah has blessed me for your sake. And he said, Name me your wages, and I give it. So he said to him, You know how I have served you, and how your livestock has been with me. For the little you had before I came has increased greatly, and Jehovah has blessed you since my coming. But now, when am I to provide for my own house too? And he said, What do I give you? And Jacob said, Give me not. If you do this for me, I shall again feed and guard your flocks. Let me pass through all your flock today, removing from them all the speckled and spotted sheep, and all the black ones among the lambs, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and these shall be my wages. And my righteousness shall answer for me in time to come. When you come concerning my wages, every one that is not speckled and spotted among the goats, and black among the lambs, it is stolen if it is with me. And Laban said, See, let it be according to your word. And on that day he set aside the male goats that were speckled and spotted, and all the female goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had some white in it, and all the black ones among the lambs, and gave them into the hand of his sons. And he put 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flocks. And Jacob took for himself rods of green poplar, and of the almond and chestnut trees, peeled white strips in them, and exposed the white which was in the rods. And he set the rods which he had peeled before the flocks in the gutters, in the watering troughs where the flocks came to drink, and they conceived when they came to drink. So the flocks conceived before the rods, and the flocks brought forth streaked, speckled, and spotted. And Jacob separated the lambs, and made the flocks face toward the streaked, and all the black, in the flock of Laban. But he put his own flocks by themselves, and did not put them with Laban's flocks. And it came to be, whenever the strong ones of the flock conceived, that Jacob placed the rods before the eyes of the flock in the gutter, so they would not conceive among the rods. But when the flocks were weak, he did not put them in, so the weak ones were Laban's, and the strong ones were Jacob's. Thus the man increased very much, and had many flocks, and female and male servants, and camels and donkeys. Genesis 31. And he heard the words of Laban's son, saying, Jacob has taken away all that was our father's, and from what belonged to our father he has made all his wealth. And Jacob would look at the face of Laban, and see that it was not toward him as before. And Jehovah said to Jacob, Return to the land of your fathers, and to your relatives, and I am with you. And Jacob sent and called Rahel and Leah to his field, to his flock, and said to them, I see your father's face, that it is not toward me as before, but the Elohim of my father has been with me, and you know that I have served your father with all my strength. Yet your father has deceived me and changed my wages 10 times, but Elohim did not allow him to do evil to me. When he said this, the speckled are your wages, that all the flocks bore speckled. And when he said this, the streaked are your wages, that all the flocks bore streaked. So Elohim has taken away the livestock of your father and given them to me. And it came to be, at the time when the flocks conceived, that I lifted my eyes and looked into a dream, and saw the rams which leaped upon the flocks were streaked, speckled, and mottled. And the messenger of Elohim spoke to me in a dream, saying, Jacob. And I said, Here I am. And he said, Lift your eyes now and see. All the rams which leap on the flocks are streaked, speckled, and mottled. For I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the El of Bethel, where you anointed the standing column, and where you made a vow to me. Now rise up, get out of this land, and return to the land of your relatives. And Rahel and Leah answered and said to him, Do we still have any portion or inheritance in our father's house? Are we not reckoned by him as strangers? For he has sold us, and also entirely consumed our silver. For all the wealth which Elohim has taken from our father are ours and our children's. Now then, do whatever Elohim has told you. So Jacob rose and put his sons and his wives on camels, and he drove off all his livestock and all his possessions which he had acquired, his property of the livestock which he had acquired in Padan Aram, to go to his father Yitzhak in the land of Canaan. And when Laban had gone to shear his sheep, Rahel stole the house idols that were her father's. And Jacob deceived Laban the Aramean, because he did not inform him that he was about to flee. And he fled with all that he had, and he rose up and passed over the river, and headed toward the mountains of Gilad. And on the 3rd day Laban was told that Jacob had fled. Then he took his brothers with him and pursued him for 7 days' journey, and he overtook him in the mountains of Gilad. But in a dream by night Elohim came to Laban the Aramean and said to him, "Guard yourself that you do not speak to Jacob either good or evil." Then Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the mountains, and Laban with his brothers pitched in the mountains of Gilad. And Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done, that you have deceived me, and driven my daughters off like captives taken with the sword? Why did you flee secretly and deceive me, and not inform me? And I would have sent you away with joy and songs, with tambourine and lyre. And you did not allow me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now you have been foolish to do this. It is in the power of my hand to do evil to you. But the Elohim of your father spoke to me last night, saying, Guard yourself, that you do not speak to Jacob either good or evil. And now you have gone, because you greatly long for your father's house. But why did you steal my mighty ones?" And Jacob answered and said to Laban, "Because I was afraid, for I said, Lest you tear your daughters away from me. With whomever you find your mighty ones, do not let him live. In the presence of our brothers, see for yourself what is with me, and take it with you." For Jacob did not know that Rahel had stolen them. And Laban went into Jacob's tent, and into Leah's tent, and into the tents of the 2 female servants, but he did not find them. And he came out of Leah's tent, and entered Rahel's tent. Now Rahel had taken the house idols, and put them in the camel's saddle, and sat on them. And Laban searched all about the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, "Let it not displease my master, that I am unable to rise before you, for the way of women is with me." And he searched, but did not find the house idols. And Jacob was wroth, and contended with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, "What is my transgression? What is my sin, that you have hotly pursued me? Now that you have searched all my goods, what have you found of all your household goods? Set it here before my brothers and your brothers, and let them decide between the 2 of us. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your female goats have not miscarried their young, and I have not eaten the rams of your sheep. That which was torn by beasts I did not bring to you. I myself bore the loss of it. You required it from my hand, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was. By day the heat consumed me, and the frost by night, and my sleep fled from my eyes. These 20 years I have been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters, and 6 years for your flock, and you have changed my wages 10 times. Unless the Elohim of my father, the Elohim of Abraham, and the fear of Yitzhak had been with me, you would now have sent me away empty-handed. Elohim has seen my affliction and the labor of my hands, and rendered judgment last night." And Laban answered and said to Jacob, "These daughters are my daughters, and these children are my children, and this flock is my flock, and all that you see is mine. But what shall I do today to these my daughters, or to their children, whom they have borne? And now, come, let us make a covenant, you and I, and it shall be a witness between you and me." So Jacob took a stone, and set it up as a standing column. And Jacob said to his brothers, "Gather stones." And they took stones and made a heap, and they ate there on the heap. And Laban called it Yegar Sahadutha, but Jacob called it Galed. And Laban said, This heap is a witness between you and me today. That is why its name is called Galed. Also Mitzpah, because he said, Let Yahovah watch between you and me when we are out of each other's sight. If you afflict my daughters, or if you take other wives besides my daughters, although no man is with us, see, Elohim is witness between you and me. And Laban said to Yaakov, See this heap, and see this standing column, which I have placed between you and me. This heap is a witness, and this standing column is a witness, that I do not pass beyond this heap to you, and you do not pass beyond this heap and this standing column to me, for evil. The Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Nahor, and the Elohim of their father rightly rule between us. And Yaakov swore by the fear of his father Yitzhak. And Yaakov brought an offering on the mountain, and called his brothers to eat bread. And they ate bread and spent the night on the mountain. And Laban rose up early in the morning, and kissed his sons and daughters, and blessed them. And Laban left and returned to his place. Genesis 32, verses 1 and 2. And Jacob went on his way, and the messengers of Elohim met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, This is the camp of Elohim. And he called the name of that place Mahanaim. Hosea 12 through 14. And when Jacob fled to the country of Aram, Yisrael served for a wife, and for a wife he kept watch. And by a prophet Yehovah brought Yisrael out of Mitzrayim, and by a prophet he was watched over. Ephraim has provoked most bitterly, so his master left his blood guilt on him, and repaid him for his reproach. Hosea 13. When Ephraim spoke, there was a trembling. He was lifted up in Yisrael. But through Baal he became guilty, and he died. And now they sin more and more, and make for themselves molded images from their silver, idols according to their skill, all of them the work of craftsmen. They say of them, Let the men who slaughter kiss the calves. Therefore they shall be like a morning cloud, and like dew that goes away early, like chaff blown off from a threshing floor, and like smoke from a window. But I am Yahovah your Elohim, since the land of Mitzrayim, and an Elohim besides me you shall not know, for there is no Savior besides me. I knew you in the wilderness, in the land of drought. When they were fed, they were satisfied. They were satisfied, and their heart was exalted. Therefore they forgot me. So I am become like a lion to them. Like a leopard I watch by the way. Like a bear robbed of her young, I attack them, and rip open the enclosure of their heart. And there I devour them like a lion, a wild beast, tear them apart. You have destroyed yourself, O Yisrael, but your help is in me. Where is your sovereign now to save you in all your cities, and your rulers of whom you said, Give me a sovereign and rulers? I gave you a sovereign in my displeasure, but I took him away in my wrath. The crookedness of Ephraim is bound up, his sin is hidden. Pains of a woman in labor shall come upon him. He is not a wise son, for it is not the time that he should delay at the breaking forth of children. From the power of the grave I ransomed them, from death I redeemed them. Where is your plague, O death? Where is your destruction, O grave? Repentance is hidden from my eyes. Though he bears fruit among his brothers, an east wind comes, a wind from Yehovah comes up from the wilderness, and it dries up his fountain, and his spring becomes dry. It plunders a treasure of all desirable objects. Shomeron is held guilty, for she has rebelled against her Elohim. They fall by the sword, their infants are dashed to pieces, and their pregnant women ripped open. Hosea 14. O Yisrael, return to Yehovah your Elohim, for you have stumbled by your crookedness. Take words with you, and return to Yehovah. Say to him, take away all crookedness, and accept what is good, and we render the bowls of our lips. Ashur does not save us. We do not ride on horses, nor ever again do we say to the work of our hands, our mighty ones, for the fatherless finds compassion in you. I shall heal their backsliding. I shall love them spontaneously, for my displeasure has turned away from him. I shall be like the dew to Yisrael. He shall blossom like the lily, and cast out his roots like Lebanon. His branches shall spread, and his splendor shall be like an olive tree, and his fragrance like Lebanon. Those who dwell under his shadow shall return. They shall revive like grain, and blossom like the vine, and become as fragrant as the wine of Lebanon. What more has Ephraim to do with idols? It is I who answer and look after him. I am like a green cypress tree. Your fruit comes from me. Who is wise and understands these words, discerning and knows them? For the ways of Yehovah are straight, and the righteous walk in them, but the transgressors stumble in them. John 1:41 through 51. First, he found his own brother Shimon and said to him, we have found the Messiah, which means the anointed. And he brought him to Yeshua, and looking at him, Yeshua said, you are Shimon, the son of Yonah. You shall be called Kepha, which means a stone. On the following day, Yeshua wished to go to Galilee, and he found Philip and said to him, follow me. And Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andre and Kepha. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, we have found him whom Moshe wrote of in the Torah and the prophets, Yeshua of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. And Nathanael said to him, is it possible for any good matter to come out of Nazareth? Philip said to him, come and see. Yeshua saw Nathanael coming toward him and said of him, see, truly, a Yisraelite, in whom is no deceit. Nathanael said to him, from where do you know me? Yeshua answered and said to him, before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you. Nathanael answered to him and said, Rabbi, you are the son of Elohim. You are the sovereign of Yisrael. Yeshua answered and said to him, because I said to you, I saw you under the fig tree. Do you believe? Greater than that you shall see. And he said to him, truly, truly, I say to you, from now on you shall see the heaven opened, and the messengers of Elohim ascending and descending upon the son of Adam.